According to World Economic Forum, 60% of women in sub-Saharan Africa work in agriculture, producing 70% of the continent's food. Consequently, women are more vulnerable when climate shocks affect food production. That's why they must be included in discussions and decisions about tackling climate change issue. Hello everyone and welcome to Our Voices. I'm Simbanyu Shekoye and I'm joined by my co-hosts Oriane Itangishaka and Jeannie Niwa. We are also privileged to have a special guest today from our affiliate partners in Kenya. Jamila Mohammed is a Kenyan journalist with over 20 years of experience in journalism, and currently she's the managing editor at Citizen Television in Kenya. Welcome, Jamila.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here today. Thank you.
So, in light of the first Africa Climate Summit held last week in Kenya, we will review how women were represented and highlight some of the vital roles women can play in tackling climate change. Hello, ladies.
Hello. Hi.
I believe you all followed the first Africa Climate Summit that was held from September 4 to 6 in Nairobi, Kenya. That was a very critical opportunity for African leaders to have a collective voice in demanding climate action. But critics are saying that vulnerable people, especially women, were underrepresented. So what's your observation? Let me start with you, Jamila, since you are our guest.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. The Africa Climate Summit was a brilliant idea, having African voices about climate change together, united. But now the issue of women and vulnerable groups was almost forgotten. There was very little about them during the discussions. I think there was just one sitting that was chaired by the Kenyan First Lady. But even the final report from the summit did not have much about women and vulnerable groups. And that's a bit disheartening, considering the fact that women and children are the ones who are most affected by climate change. Yes, but we're hoping that maybe more discussions will include them. But in the Africa Climate Summit, there could have been more. Yeah, more could have been done.
That's what disappointed most advocates and activists as well. Oriane, you also followed the summit, right?
And I'm also happy to have Jamila on.
Thank you.
Yes, I definitely followed the summit, and I was very, very impressed and very happy to see African countries coming together to try to solve a global issue. I mean, that was for me something that I was really proud of, and to hopefully see more of that in the future. I also was really proud to see the Nairobi Declaration, which, you know, is one of the things that they're going to do is to try to come together in terms of mobilizing finances that are meant to actually solve this crisis, to see where organizations, countries can put their money to actually seeing this through. And of course, I would like to see more participation, more women's voices at the table, because like you said, Jamila, they're the ones that are most affected in the crisis.
Yeah. Niwa, what was your take?
I'm going to join what they say. Having an African summit was very important. I think the message was clear from, you know, the prior years that, you know, the African countries are the one on the other end that are, you know, the victims of, you know, all those industrial countries. But as far as women, you know, knowing that they're on the forefront, like they say, it wasn't enough. But, you know, the discussion hopefully will keep going. But yeah, women needs to be included, and we need to understand that they can be also a part of the solution.
Yeah, I mean, I also share all the points you made about being proud that this happened, this summit happened in the continent, and at the same time that women were less represented. But coming to your point, Oriane, even though I'm happy that the declaration is demanding from what the polluters need to do in contributing financially to make up for all the pollution they have caused. But at the same time, I see more effort going also into what the continent can do on its own. How can they mobilize their own resources without relying on anybody?
Definitely.
And adapt to climate change. But the summit is now going to be the reason why we will be focusing on Kenya more in this episode. The first Africa Climate Summit held in Kenya concluded with the Nairobi Declaration. And it's calling for world leaders to ensure large-scale financing for climate-related investments and debt relief. While this is the first time the continent leaders united to seek collective action against climate change, critics say it falls short on addressing the needs of vulnerable populations, such as women and girls. The United Nations estimates that 80% of people displaced by climate crisis are women. That's because many women depend on climate-sensitive natural resources for income and household work. In addition, they have less access to climate change information. While this requires for women to be in center for solving climate crisis, women are currently underrepresented in most climate forums and negotiations. On this week's episode of Our Voices, we will look at African women's role in protecting their environment. We will ask experts for ways their voices are represented in the global fight against climate change so that they can be in the center of any mitigation and adaptation programs.
Now that's right. In trying to find solutions, African women are looking for different ways to style their hair, particularly to reduce the use of harsh chemicals that can have adverse health effects as well. One option is synthetic hair. While no apparent health issues are associated with its use, disposing it raises environmental concerns. As Juma Majanga reports, women in Kenya, Kisumu County, have found a clever way of recycling it.
From a distance, one would think that Sarah Adero is simply doing her laundry at home. But she is recycling synthetic hair waste. Adero and her team collect the waste from salons and barbershops and turn it into doormats, table mats and carpets, preventing it from ending up in Lake Victoria. The recycled items sell for between $5 and $30 a piece, depending on the size and design.
This job has helped all of us. The salon owners get to dispose of synthetic hair waste from their shops, and I profit by making doormats and selling them and get money. The environment also benefits because these wastes used to block drainage.
The collected waste is washed and left to dry after sorting before it is woven into finished product. Women in Kenya's Kisumu County are increasingly turning to synthetic hair to enhance style and aesthetics, as well as to avoid health risks associated with harsh styling chemicals such as relaxers. Synthetic hair, however, creates large amounts of waste, contributing to environmental pollution.
One of the areas that a number of authorities and environmentalists had never identified as a source of pollution to the lake are actually the synthetic human hair and even the natural hair that we get from barbershops. Not so many people have ever thought of their disposal.
Local government officials acknowledge challenges in synthetic waste management and say they support solution-driven initiatives.
The environment is my responsibility and your responsibility and our responsibility. So anybody who is going that route is highly welcome and highly applauded, because unless we pull together to protect and conserve the environment, then we will still have so many challenges around waste management.
Synthetic hair recycling is a relatively new concept in Kenya, but experts say it has great potential to provide numerous environmental, social, and economic benefits. Of the 3.5 tons collected monthly in the Mamboleo shopping center, Adero says she can only recycle up to 5% of that for now. Her hope is to expand the initiative and train more people to scale up the benefits. Juma Majanga for VOA News, Kisumu, Kenya.
Well, that is very interesting. We just watched women in Kenya who took an initiative to remove this non-degradable synthetic hair and, to protect their environment, at the same time making business for themselves. How amazing is that?
Very impressive.
It's very interesting.
I didn't know about this and I live in Kenya.
Kenyan women are smart.
They're very smart.
Now you know what to do with any artificial hair you have at home.
Yeah. We'll be sending it to her.
Exactly. I mean, but these women are just an example of what women in the continent do to protect their environment, their water, their forests, their seeds, Yeah. So
even their wigs.
Exactly. So how do you see the contribution of women in protecting their environment, in fighting climate change? Burundi, how is it like?
Burundi, one of the things that have been impressive for me is seeing young women. You see young women being very interested in climate change. They have associations, they have organizations of transforming things. Like, for instance, there are companies that transform plastic into furniture. There are women who are doing cups, things like that. They're doing jewelries. They're doing all kinds of very interesting things to make money, but also to protect the environment. So, and I've been very impressed in seeing some of the large organizations, including embassies, supporting them, like the U.S. embassies and other organizations on the ground. So it's very impressive to see young women being involved.
So, Jamila, let me ask you, while women are basically on the forefront of climate change crisis, and while they are also essential in protecting the environment, why do you think they're left out from big conversations like the Africa Summit we just had?
That's a very good question. They don't have a seat at the table. And as she's talked about Burundi, what we've seen is happening in Kisumu. There are many other such efforts. I met a 9-year-old Kenyan girl who's been planting trees for the past few years. I think she's at 30,000 trees now.
Wow.
Yeah. And when I think about how Africa secured about financial assistance of about $23 billion at the climate summit, yes, they wanted more, but some of that money should be used to fund some of these projects that women and young girls are doing in the villages and in the cities, because that is what is making a difference, because they understand the issues that affect them, because they affect them personally. So they should be empowered. They should be given the opportunity to be able to actually find solutions to some of these problems. I think the only sitting that we had something to do about clean cooking solutions, which is really well and good, because it's one of the issues that facing us, but there can be a bit more that can be done to give women a seat on the table.
Niwa, what do you say? How can we bring these women to the forefront?
Orion mentioned earlier information. There's pollutants that are more visible, and who would think, synthetic hair. What is synthetic hair? It's plastic. So finding more solution, recycling, and having them understand that you also can be a part of the solution.
Definitely. We will have another person joining us on Skype from Kenya. So the UN reports communities are more successful in climate adaptation strategies when women are part of the planning process. So to understand exactly how this works and dig deeper into why women are key to finding climate solutions, we invited Wangari Kuria, the founder of Farmer on Fire. This is an organization based in Nairobi, Kenya, that provides access for information for farmers in Africa. In April this year, Wangari received the Global Citizen Prize for providing access to information for farmers across Africa, as well as training and supporting women and single mothers in launching their own businesses. She's joining us via Skype from Nairobi. Wangari, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So you directly work with women farmers, and you help them adapt to climate change and be productive. So tell us, how are you doing that, and how is just as simple as providing information transforming these women to be resilient to climate change?
Yes, so my name is Wangari Kuria. I am known as the Farmer on Fire. The idea is to use social media platform to reach young people and women and showcase to them that I am doing it, I am making money, I'm transforming from subsistence farming to commercial farming, and they can also do it too. Also, we have a lot of farm tours at our farm in Kitengela, Nairobi, where people can come and practically see how we are staying resilient and adapting to the changes in the climate. So things like BSFL, which is growing worms for poultry farmers and other livestock farmers. But we also teach our neighboring community, which is the Maasai community, which are usually affected by drought, on how to grow mushrooms. So mushroom is one of the ways that you can grow, because it's soilless. You don't need external temperatures, soil, or that kind of thing. Mushroom is grown indoors. So that's myself working on my farm and my garden, using drip irrigation as a way to cope with climate change, and also showcasing to people how we are doing it and how they can also do it as well.
Wangari, can you give us an example of how maybe people were doing farming before and how they can adapt to the climate change? What kind of changes they can make?
So I'm born in the village from Nyandarua. I am seeing your have my fellow Kenyan on the show today, and I agree with what is the discussion today. We need more women on the decision-making table because clearly they are the silent, horses that are driving this agricultural production. Yet no one consults them or asks them what what is critical in terms of decision making in the food system. So I was brought up in the village, and I saw my mom use the little money that he got from the nearby farm. We used to call it a kitchen garden. Take us through school, provide for us, offer nutrition. But then she didn't think of it as a business. I didn't think of it as a business. No money changed hands for her. And for me, when I finished high school, I was like, I need to go to the city, to university, because definitely I don't see any opportunity in farming. And then now I'm a farmer and a producer who's making money from it. So we have seen people thinking of farming as this something that gives them food, but not as a business. And that's the transition that we want to see, where people are taking things seriously, consulting experts, doing things that are climate smart, them adapting. If you are seeing that maybe the rainfall is coming and you don't have to plant maize, which takes longer.
Hey, Wangare. Hi, can you hear me? This is Jamila. Hi, I'll come look for you when I'm back in Kenya. It's so good to see you on the show. You talk about adaptation, and you talk about the changes that you have done and the difference you've made in people's lives. But are there any challenges that you're facing in the implementation of this project?
Challenges are many, and as an activist, I'm very loud in saying women are also loud. We want to be part of the process. We want to be part of the stakeholders. So that's number one. Number two is the disorganization in the agricultural industry. Yes, I'm encouraging more young people to come into the space, but there's it's plagued by huge losses, lack of market, lack of support at policy level. But we are saying we need more support. We need more to be done to align the agricultural industry so that even more people can be encouraged to come into the space and we can be food secure. So my other challenge is to also empower women. They have brilliant ideas because they are at the source of the problem. And I believe the people closest to the problem have the solution.
Thank you, Wangaria. Like you say, empowering women. Well, Wangaria is the founder of Farmer on Fire, an organization based in Nairobi, Kenya. We will continue the conversation. It's now time for a break. When we return, we will hear from more women in Kenya and South Africa on how they think they can be a part of future solutions to climate-related issues. But we also love to hear from you on our social media platform. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter, at VOA Africa. And don't forget to use the hashtag VOA Our Voices. We are also on WhatsApp, and our number is country code +1 202 503 9025. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
Welcome back. You're watching Our Voices, and we're discussing gender inequality in climate change negotiations and ways to improve their participation. On Skype, we have Wangari Kurai, the founder of Farmers on Fire, and we also have a special guest here in studio, Jamila Mohammed, from our partner station, Citizen Television in Nairobi, Kenya. But we are continuing our conversation. Let's hear from women in Kenya and South Africa. Our reporter Among Wangwa talked to Esther Owaru, Sarafin Wanyonyi, and Godfred Godlover Anyongo. Also, our South Africa reporter Tsuo Kamulo talked to Fanny Mzeni and Nelly Kumalo, Vivian Wade, and Bali Manana in your Our Voice segment.
Should also come out and speak their mind, because I know many of them have many ideas, so they should also come out and speak their mind out and give out their ideas, because there are many women who have ideas. Even me, I have some ideas, so we should just come out and speak our ideas. I cannot speak for all of them, but everyone should come out and give out his idea.
Trees, yeah? We should use the biocars and what else? Solar, and also planting trees around us. If you can plant in your compound, you can plant even like 100 trees. That
are very important people in the society, and I would wish all women, even from the upcountry side, be included in this. They should be informed, should be trained, should be trained, so that they are aware.
Only those who are rich are the ones who are invited. But it's good if they can go to local and talk to people about the climate change.
I don't think we're involved enough, you know. They always use the top women, those who are in high office, as underground.
It's not only the bourgeoisie who can fix the world. Even us, the have-nots, we have to get together, be contacted, be informed, then we can win. We can work together and win, and go and clean our seas, and go and clean and take care of everything that is known, that we've been informed about it, that it is the cause of the global warming.
I think all the solutions around climate change have to be local. So if we're thinking about places, for example, where subsistence farmers are mainly women, that's where perhaps they can have a greater voice and their share of the conversation needs to be bigger.
Well, let's go back to our discussion. We also heard from women in Kenya, South Africa. Wangari, do you feel like that the underrepresentation of women in Kenya, in a global and continental level climate change negotiations and discussions, do you feel like that it has impacted on how the world deals with climate change?
Yes, definitely. I believe that women need to be critically part of the decision-making process, and they have been overlooked. These decisions are being made behind closed walls. They are not going to the ground to consult the people who are interacting directly with nature, telling them using firewood is destroying the earth, dumping your waste is destroying the earth. And if we think about the entire population, women are 51%, yet they are not represented. So definitely there is underrepresentation.
Now, Wangari, what can women do, whether it be on the local level in the farms or on the country level, to make sure that they are part of the discussion? What can they do? How can their voices be heard? What would you advise them to do?
So first is to be bold, to work on their mindset, because women have been told by society to stay in a corner, to stay quiet, not to raise their voices, but we are telling them, have the audacity to say, I am here, I am visible, this affects me most, I am most vulnerable in this, and speak out. Number two is come up with innovations and showcase their innovation on all platforms. We are seeing a lot of accelerator opportunities, and we are asking women to turn out in clouds in crowds and apply for this as well. Push for their government leaders to do something so that they are represented. They need to be proactive as well.
Thank you so much, Wangari Kuria, the founder of Farmer on Fire, for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So now, Jamila, yes, we are winding up, but before we do, how was your first Our Voice experience? Is it different from the Citizen Kenya?
No, actually, it's almost the same. I'm sitting here and I feel like I'm in Nairobi instead of doing a show, because we do a show almost similar to this every Thursday evening. It's a bit more political, but it's with a group of journalists that I respect.
How does it feel like to be with women colleagues, discussing women
issues?
Our voices on the table.
On the table with women. I love this, and you're giving me ideas about a show in Nairobi.
Nice.
Where we can have women sit and discuss issues.
So
please invite us.
That would be great.
We definitely do enjoy having you here
Thank
and
you.
having your perspective.
Thank
It's
you.
really a pleasure because, you know, a lot of times we have our colleagues on the ground with different perspectives, and it's always great to have
That's
them.
great. And that's our show for this week. Once again, a very special thank you to our guest co-host, Jamila Mohammed, managing editor at one of our affiliates, the Citizen Television in Kenya. It was a pleasure having you here in the studio. Be sure to continue the conversation on our social media platforms, and where you can catch up on the last episode of Our Voices on VOA website at voaafrica.com, or the world's top news stories. We will see you again next week with another exciting program. Until then, thank you for tuning in today. Good day.